You get your paycheck on Friday. Rent, groceries, a few bills, and whatever's left over, if anything is left over, that's what you save. Nobody sat you down and taught you this order, but you learned it anyway from your parents, your first job, every budgeting app you've ever downloaded. Spend first, save last. It feels responsible. It feels like the adult thing to do, but it is exactly backwards, and it's the single biggest reason hardworking people stay stuck while people who earn far less end up with far more. Here's the number that should bother you. In a 2018 survey of over 10,000 American millionaires conducted by Ramsey Solutions, 8 out of 10 said they built their wealth without any family money at all. No inheritance, no trust fund, no lucky break. Most of them never earned six figures until later in life, if ever. So if it wasn't the paycheck, what was it? Thomas Stanley spent decades trying to answer that exact question. Along with William Danko, he studied thousands of actual millionaires for his book, The Millionaire Next Door. And what he found broke almost every assumption people had about wealth. Most millionaires didn't drive luxury cars. They didn't live in mansions. They drove used trucks, lived in ordinary houses, and shopped with coupons. But there was one habit nearly all of them shared. They paid themselves first. Before a single bill got touched, a fixed percentage of every dollar that came in went straight into an investment account. Not what was left over, off the top. That single reordering changes everything, and here's why. Your brain is not built to save what's left over because there is rarely anything left over. This is where Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman's research becomes useful. His prospect theory showed that people feel the pain of losing money roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining the same amount. That's called loss aversion. So when saving feels like a loss, like money being taken away from your lifestyle, your brain will always find a reason to skip it. A new phone, a dinner out, 1 month becomes six becomes never. But when the money leaves before you ever see it, there's no loss to feel, nothing to negotiate with yourself about. It's just gone automatically the way a subscription renews without asking your permission. Millionaires don't have more willpower than you. They just removed the moment where willpower was required. Economists Richard Thaler and Shlomo Benartzi tested this idea directly in a real workplace with real paychecks. In their landmark 2004 study, Save More Tomorrow, they didn't ask employees to cut spending today. Instead, they asked employees to agree in advance that a slice of every future raise would be automatically diverted into retirement savings before it ever touched their checking account. Nobody had to give up money they already had. They only committed money they hadn't received yet. Within a few years, the average savings rate among participants nearly quadrupled, climbing from under 4% to close to 14%. Nobody became more disciplined overnight. The decision was simply made once in advance, and the system carried it out automatically from that point forward. So let's walk through what actually happens when you flip the order. Say you earn $4,000 a month. The habit isn't complicated the moment that paycheck lands 10%. $400 moves automatically into an index fund before you look at your checking account balance. You never see it. You never miss it because you never had the chance to. The remaining $3,600 is what you actually build your life around. Rent gets paid, groceries get bought. Life continues just slightly smaller than it would have been. Here's the part schools never explain: what happens to that $400 over time. Historically, a diversified stock index has returned close to 10% annually before inflation, a figure widely cited from over a century of market data compiled by researchers like Burton Malkiel in A Random Walk Down Wall Street. Invest $400 a month at that average return, and in 25 years, you're not looking at a savings account with $120,000 sitting flat. You're looking at somewhere near $500,000 because your money isn't just accumulating, it's compounding, earning returns on its own returns year after year invisibly while you were focused on your actual job. Now here's the twist that makes people uncomfortable. The habit isn't about having discipline with a big dramatic decision. It's about removing the decision entirely. Most people think building wealth requires constant willpower, tracking every expense, saying no to every craving, living like it's a punishment. But the millionaires Stanley studied weren't white-knuckling their way through life. They automated the one decision that mattered and then stopped thinking about it. The rest of their spending oddly became more relaxed, not less, because the guilt of "should I be saving more" disappeared. It was already handled. Compare that to what most schools actually taught you. Algebra, the stages of mitosis, the date the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Genuinely useful things, none of which explain why compounding a small percentage of your income automatically before you can touch it is worth more than almost any raise you'll ever get. A 20% raise that you spend the same way you spend everything else changes nothing. A 10% automatic investment untouched for 2 decades changes the entire trajectory of your life. None of this means you should ignore debt. High-interest credit card debt, often carrying rates of 18 to 25% a year, outruns almost any investment return the market can offer. So paying that down aggressively still comes first. But once that's under control, the underlying habit stays exactly the same. Automation beats willpower every time. It's the same lesson companies eventually borrowed from Thaler's research when they switched employees into 401k plans by default instead of waiting for them to opt in, and enrollment rates jumped almost overnight. Round up apps that invest your spare change, automatic transfers scheduled for the morning after payday, a fixed percentage pulled straight from your paycheck before it lands. None of these are gimmicks. They're the same principle Stanley found sitting quietly in Millionaire's bank statements decades ago, just rebuilt for a generation that manages its entire financial life from a phone screen. And if 10% feels impossible right now, the research actually says start smaller than that. Thaler and Benartzi's original experiment let employees commit to as little as 1 or 2% to begin with, and only increase that number automatically each time they received a raise. Nobody had to feel an immediate cut to their current lifestyle. The habit mattered more than the exact number attached to it. Starting at 3% and letting it climb by a single point with every future raise still ends up in roughly the same place Stanley found sitting in his Millionaire's portfolios. It just takes a few extra years to get there. What actually derails people isn't picking the wrong percentage. It's waiting for the perfect moment to start a moment that for most people never quite arrives on its own. And this is where it becomes personal, because the excuse everyone reaches for is the same one: I'll start once I make more. But Stanley's research found the opposite pattern. Many of the highest earners he studied were not wealthy at all because their spending rose right alongside their income. A bigger house, a nicer car, a lifestyle that expanded to swallow every extra dollar. Meanwhile, people earning half as much who paid themselves first, regardless of the number on their paycheck, quietly became millionaires by their 50s. The habit was never about how much you earned. It was about which dollar got claimed first, yours or everything else's. So think about your own paycheck again, the one landing this Friday or the 15th or whenever your job pays you. Picture the order it actually goes in right now. Rent first, subscriptions next. Groceries, gas, the card payment you keep meaning to pay down. And investing, if it happens at all, squeezed in with whatever survives at the very end of the month, which for most people is nothing. Now picture flipping just one line to the top. Before rent, before the card, before anything else touches it. Not because you suddenly have more money, because you decided once that a piece of every dollar belongs to your future before it belongs to your present. You'll still check your bank account on the 25th. The number might still feel a little lower than you expected. But this time it won't be because the money disappeared. It'll be because it already went exactly where you told it to go, working quietly, long before you ever had the chance to talk yourself out of it.